all right, let's get into this the Diddler story because Kid Cudi went and testified in the courthouse today. And funny enough, I was on my way because this is why we're getting a late show today because I went food shopping earlier. Child, when I tell you them prices. But anyway, so yeah. And then I was just going through some stuff, and a friend of mine sent me a bunch of screenshots of his testimony, which I ended up posting on my Facebook page. I don't want to go through the testimony stuff because it gets a little boring when it's like you're reading what the attorney is asking Scott, which is his real name, Scott Cudi, when you're asking him things of what happened between them. I mean, him and Cassie and that whole situation, and Diddy with the the car explosion and the threats and offering him water twice, which had me thinking like, what you put in that water? Because if you keep offering me, you want some water, you sure you want, like, if you're going to keep asking me, I'm like, what's in it? Because with him and slipping people Mickeys and all the other stuff, with everybody was somebody's like, because what you're not going to do is drug me and then all of a sudden my booty hole hurt when I wake up. So Scott Cudi, the rapper and actor also known as Kid Cudi, took the stand as a witness during Sean Diddy Combs' trafficking trial on Thursday, recounting his relationship with Cassandra Cassie Ventura and Combs' alleged acts of retaliation. Now, speaking at Combs' sex trafficking trial in Manhattan federal court, Cudi said that one day, while he and Cassie briefly dated, he took her to a West Hollywood hotel to get her away from the seething Combs. While there, he said he got a call from Combs' assistant, Capricorn. Oh, I remember that bitch, Capricorn Clark, who told him Combs and an affiliate were in his house and that she had been forced to go with them. Cudi said he left the hotel to drive home and that he called Combs en route and asked him why he was in his house. He said Combs calmly replied, "I want to talk to you." Well, here's the thing before I get to the rest of this story. You can talk to me all you want, but what you're gonna do is get your black ass up out my house and sit it outside, because nobody invited you to go up in my stuff. I don't give a good goddamn what you doing with Cassie. She shouldn't even let you get up in my spot. Maybe you like whipping her ass, but what you're not gonna do is come up in there and think you're gonna whip mine. And then you're gonna sit up in my house like you run it. You run your house. You run your stuff. You run Bad Boy Records. You don't run me. That's what I would have been like. But, some people just be like, well, Diddy is powerful. Diddy is dangerous. But it's like, okay, you can be all of that, but you need to be all that outside my property because you are trespassing. I didn't invite you in. He didn't invite that vampire up in his house. So they said, but Combs wasn't there when he arrived. Cudi said instead he found that someone had opened Christmas presents he bought for his family and locked his dog in a bathroom. So now you're going through his stuff. Cudi said he wasn't sure what was going on, so he called the police. A few weeks later, Cudi testified his Porsche 911 convertible was destroyed by fire while parked in his driveway. Cudi said that he was at a friend's house when his dog sitter called and told him his car was on fire. Jurors were shown photos of a hole that had been cut in the car's fabric roof and a Molotov cocktail that had been found in the passenger seat. Cassie testified last week that Combs had threatened to blow up Cudi's car and hurt him after he learned that he was dating a Grammy Award-winning rapper who was known for his alternative hip-hop style. Cudi told jurors that Combs denied involvement in the car fire when they met to try to smooth things over the next day at a LA hotel. He said he sought the meeting because after the fire, I said this is getting out of hand. I need to talk to him. Cudi said he didn't have any conflicts at the time with anyone other than Combs. He said, I knew he had something to do with it. This is what he said, leading Combs' lawyers to object. Jurors were told to disregard the remark. Now, at the end of the meeting, as they stood and shook hands, Cudi said that he asked Combs, what are we going to do about my car? Cudi said Combs gave him a very cold stare and responded, I don't know what you're talking about. Cudi said that he was miffed by Combs' answer, but let it go. So now you're going to sit up in here and you're going to do things, you're going to threaten me, and then you're going to try to act stupid and act like you ain't do nothing. Well, I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, so now, there's more to the story. And one thing I want to say, shout out to the Hollywood Reporter for this story, by the way, because they broke it on down. Now, they said Cudi said he told Combs that he was taking him for his word, even though I'm sure in his gut he felt like he was full of, shit. Now, eventually, he said he made peace with the situation and there was no more incidents at his house. A few years later, Combs apologized to Cudi for everything when they ran into each other again at a hotel, Cudi testified. Combs seemed subdued as Cudi testified. Although he looked toward the witness stand, neither man seemed to react to the other. Cudi didn't look at Combs when he left the stand. Combs, 55, as you already know, has pleaded not guilty to trafficking and racketeering, blah, 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 so on and so forth. Now, during the defense cross-examination of Cudi, Combs' lawyer, Brian Steele, painted Cassie as the villain in the relationship. Yeah, I was trying to make her look like the villain. They was out here trying to make her look like a whore. And it's sort of like, well, then if she's a hoe, then what is Diddy? Her damn pimp? Because his behavior is very pimp-like. So if we're going to sit out here and try to paint her one way, well, what are we going to do with him? Because the side of the canvas of his team is making him look real blank, real nothing, like nothing is on the canvas. So he denied that he used threats or his music industry standing to abuse women and others, and that he forced Cassie or anyone else to take part in drug-related performances called freak-offs. Now, during the defense, I was like, where did I go? Because I lost my spot. Okay, so and they were also trying to paint Cassie like she was living a double life and all the other stuff. So now Cudi also testified that when he started dating Cassie in late 2011, she had led him to believe that she and Combs had broken up. In reality, Cassie testified earlier she was still seeing Combs for freak-offs and used a burner phone to contact Cudi and keep their relationship secret from Combs, saying Miss Ventura was living two different lives. Is that true? Yes, Cudi replied. Cudi also said that he was upset to find out that she had later decided to go back to Combs. Now, after the defense questioning ended, Cudi left the courthouse, walking quickly to a waiting SUV. He didn't stop to speak to reporters. The federal investigation of Combs, y'all know, we don't need to go into that because we already know it started in November after Cassie sued and all that other stuff. So, the way I'm looking at all of this, and I think they said that there was more that was added to this. So hold on. Now they said that she developed a relationship with Cudi in late 2011, and she ended it within weeks after Combs learned about it, and he looked at her phone during one of the hundreds of freak-offs she had endured over the years. Now, George Kaplan, Combs' personal assistant from 2013 to 2015, testified earlier Thursday that he saw Combs be violent with Cassie only once on a 2015 road trip to Las Vegas aboard Combs' private jet. He said he heard glass breaking behind him and saw Combs standing with a whiskey glass in his hand. Saying, quote, there was tremendous commotion and a scuffle, and then after the glass crashed, Cassie screamed, isn't anybody seeing this? Kaplan testified, adding that neither he nor any other security workers or bad boy staff on the plane responded to the call for help. He said he didn't want to lose his dream job, but then he quit after the attack and later incident in which he saw Cassie with a bruised eye. So the people that are going to be up under Diddy, yes, they're going to sit up there and they're just going to go along with it and they're just going to look the other way and keep quiet because at the end of the day, all they care about is their job. All they care about is making sure they maintain their source of income or whatever the case is. And I'm sure like maybe there'll be some times if they challenge him, which if you saw that docu-series that they did, I believe on HBO Max, there were people that did speak up against him and things, and then there was people that said that they didn't because out of fear of he knew a lot of people in the industry and he could give a bad recommendation, and the people would sit there and go, well, this person has a bad rep, so we don't want to work with them. So he could easily ruin and destroy your career. That's how powerful Diddy was at the time. When people say, well, I mean, don't get me wrong. Now I do feel for Kid Cudi because he genuinely cared for her and he wanted to be in a relationship with her, but she couldn't detach herself from Diddy because she was probably still under his spell, in his clutches. You know, they have said there is a statistic that said it takes someone a whopping 7 times if they could survive that long, because sometimes that one hit could be your last. But they said it takes a person a whopping 7 times to finally leave, their abuser. And so people need to realize, like, yeah, even though it is wrong for her to be living double lives and her having this burner phone, because yeah, she tried to keep her other relationships away from Diddy. So Diddy's sitting there thinking that she with him, that he owns her and all that other stuff. He still has that control. And she doesn't know how to pull herself away from that. I don't necessarily know what was in her mind at the time of why she couldn't pull herself away from him completely. But like I said before, when you're in an abusive situation and you have that, Stockholm syndrome, and when somebody has broken you down mentally as well as physically, you stick with what you know, even though you know it's wrong. It's like that addiction, I guess, is there. So maybe she had an addiction to doing these freak offs and an addiction to being around Diddy. And the time of like, okay, so we broken up, but he's constantly harassing her. And so now she's got to keep herself still, one foot over there with the freak offs and Diddy, this other foot over here. But you over here double dipping, and now someone who genuinely cares about you feels stupid. So in so many ways, I do feel for Kid Cudi, but there was one thing that I read that I thought was a cackle. Let me see if I can find it. Oh yes, you said that. What was it? Oh, so then when they said, um, when it was talking about that when Cassie and him dated, this is from Inner City Press. He said we dated in 2011, and then the attorney asked who else was she involved with. Cudi said Sean Combs. The attorney asked, what did you know about their status? Cudi said that she and Combs had some problems and they weren't dating anymore. And then the attorney says in December 2011, did law enforcement respond to your home? Cudi says, yeah, I had a break-in. Cassie called me at 5:30 or 6 a.m. She said Sean Combs had found out about us. She asked me to pick her up, so I did. Yeah. And then the attorney asked why. And they said, Cudi says she was worried. Now, the attorney asked, what was her demeanor? Cudi says, very stressed and worried. Attorney asks, where did you go? Cudi says, the Sunset Marquee. Attorney asks, why? Cudi says, I thought it was safe, off the radar. And the attorney said, who else did you speak with? Cudi says, Capricorn Clark. She sounded near tears. The attorney says, what did she say? Cudi says that Sean is in the car near my house. And then that's when Brian Steele goes, objection. Judge says overruled. The attorney goes and says, you called Sean Combs? Cudi says, I did. He said, I'm over here waiting for you. Attorney says, when you arrived, what did the outside look like? Cudi says, pretty normal. The attorney says, any security camera? Cudi says, yes, but I found out they weren't working. So then the Cudi says, by the security cameras have been moved, but they've been moved. And then the attorney asks, did you move them? Cudi says, no. Attorney says, what did you see inside your home? The Cudi says, gifts were open, some stuff I got for Chanel, and my dog was locked up in the bathroom. The attorney says, how did you usually leave your dog? And then Cudi says, I let him roam. Then the attorney says, how long had you had your dog? Cudi says, 3 years. Attorney says, what changes were behavior of your dog after the break-in? Cudi says, jittery, on edge all the time. Well, I guess everybody's on edge. He even got dogs on edge. That's how annoying he is. But I was like, where's that other one that I saw? Oh yeah, and then we're talking about the car and all that other stuff. And oh, so when it went and said, the attorney says, what was Mr. Combs doing? And then Cudi said, this is the part that made me laugh. When he said standing there like a Marvel supervillain. Because it was like when they finally met up. And so then Cudi says, he said, we were homies. You know that is my girl. And then the attorney says, what did you say? Cudi says, I thought you had broken up. Then Sean Combs offered me water twice. He said it was weird. Sean Combs was being so calm because he drunk that damn water, allegedly. That's probably what it was. And then the attorney said, what did Cassie say? And then Cudi says, then that we have fallen in love, things happen. Then the attorney says, what did you say to Mr. Combs? Cudi says, what about my car? He said, I don't know what you're talking about. I walked away. And then they were talking about like the Soho House and all other stuff. So yeah, that was like when he said like a super villain. I was like, oh no, because that's what Diddy be trying to act like. Diddy be trying to act like he just be running everything. And at the time he did. Well, look, I just feel like the way they painted this man, his career is pretty much, I would say, he's done. Like, and even if he were to get off, and that's a big if, I just don't see him still being able to survive outside these walls. Like, who in the industry is gonna mess with him? Like, what endorsement deals? Like, you're like, even if you were let off by a jury and they said not guilty after all of this, I do feel like you still are gonna be painted as an evil person. Your reputation is shot. You only have the incels out here wearing them stupid free Diddy t-shirts that'll be supporting you. But for the most part, I just feel like the court of public opinion has pretty much destroyed this man anyway. It's kind of like when you got Candace Owens dumb behind out here thinking that she ate by interviewing Harvey Weinstein, knowing full on well the monster that man was, or still is, because he's still alive. To the point that, look, Georgina Chapman had to drop his ass and get her some real peen from Adrian Brody. Like he could just, as big as his nose, he could satisfy her by shoving that nose up her cooch, and that'll be fine. But anyway, so I say all this to say, what do you guys think of this story? So yeah, Kid Cudi was the latest to testify in the court case. I wasn't expecting him to be out here testifying and stuff. I think maybe his story will probably do more damage to Diddy than say Dawn Richard. Because I remember Dawn Richard was out here doing her testimony. They ate her up on that stand. But one of the other things that bothered me about that whole Dawn Richard thing, when she was leaving the courthouse and some hood booger had the unlitigated gall to be asking, so how big is Diddy's dick? Well, why don't you go up there and give him a visitation of the prison and ask him to pull his pants down and find out? Because we know you be the type to put it in your mouth. On top of that, she wouldn't mind, being knocked around by Diddy or attending. I said, you know what? Some of y'all just need to go play in traffic. And then y'all also, I feel like, ruin it a lot for those of us who, yeah, we're not journalists, but we come out here and we take this stuff seriously. When we try to bring y'all the information and then we give our opinions based off the information. A lot of y'all think just because y'all got a damn iPhone and y'all standing outside a damn courthouse and shouting stuff that makes you Roz Abrams or freaking Sue Simmons or even Gail King, who I'm hearing her days is allegedly numbered over there at CNN. Oh, not CNN, CBS. But that's what she said. So I definitely want to hear from y'all ladies what y'all think about this whole Kid Cudi Diddy testification situation. So let me know what your thoughts are on this story in the comments down below.